Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a great day so far. This is the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and usually it's the day when people just kind of crash from all their travel, all their time together, all their family friends. I'll tell you, I think my family, as far as I'm concerned, my wife and I both said this Thanksgiving was one of the best we've ever had with our family. Some other friends that came to our Thanksgiving gathering. They're in Jasonville, Indiana. It was wonderful to have all my family, my mom, my sisters, nephews, nieces, their kids. So it was just a wonderful, wonderful time, and we just had fun. I even played basketball, which I'm not good at basketball, never have been, but just had a lot of fun with my family, and the people watching us play had more fun watching us play than anything else. It was the old guys against the younger people, and the old guys tried to prevail, but we had our moments. Hey, as I mentioned earlier, all of you may want to carefully look at and consider the community guidelines that YouTube has now put out. They also involve community strikes, which can get you banned or off the air for 90 days or whatever. So please watch those things. And look, we're not bowing down, we're not compromising. We're going to keep speaking the truth, sharing the truth. You may be aware of this, but in ancient Rome, early Christians, when they got together to talk and fellowship, sometimes would make with their foot, they would make half the sign of the fish, and then the other person would make the rest of the sign of the fish, and that was their way of knowing, okay, we're Christians, we're safe to talk and this and that. Who knows if we're going to get to that type of concern and persecution or opposition? But nonetheless, we need to be sensitive and careful. When I read stuff, I'm going to start saying I'm reading a headline and from where I'm reading it from. I know there are some of you that want me to make some stronger comments about mandates and requirements, and if I do that, they're gonna shut us off. So this is more of a read between the lines type podcast from now on. It's going to be a discernment, use, the necessity of it. And as Daryl said, dad jokes are always allowed. This is going to be a safe haven for dad jokes in the comments, and I'll even try to make some myself. Hey, some interesting headlines that we need to be aware of today. Over 600 Google employees signed manifesto against the COVID requirement. That was off of Zero Hedge. Um, Merck's, okay, this is from newstrust.org. Merck's COVID 19 pill significantly less effective in new analysis. So there's some information there. New York ER closes as employees refuse to comply with certain requirements. So we're seeing it beginning to really impact the medical field. There's some other information out there that I'm not going to read. South Africa medical chief says new COVID mutation has only produced very mild cases. And once again, this is the South Africa medical chief says new COVID mutation has only produced very mild cases. And yet the world has gone crazy. Matter of fact, in Germany, no euthanasia without COVID shot, death society rules. Some interesting things happening there. And in the news today, normal news, you may have seen this, but in France, armed school children, and they had branches and limbs, uh, walked onto a bus, stormed the bus, and attacked passengers. Now, if you have not noticed, there's been an incredible increase, even just over this last week, of um, groups of people, gangs of organized thieves running into stores like Apple, Nordstrom, other places, Home Depot, and just taking everything that they possibly can and running out. I don't know what you do as a boss or as a manager to handle those things. If you're in California, people can rob up to $1,000 and not be arrested for it, which is absolutely crazy. Because what they've said is it's okay to steal. And look, when culture and those in leadership say it's okay to steal, it's okay to do this, your stuff and my stuff becomes a target. I don't know what you do with 20 to 30 people, but I'm okay with managers in certain states. We're going to be able to do this. Um, Having armed guards at the door, um, having armed citizens help with security. I do not go anywhere. I'm concealed carry. I do not go anywhere without a gun. And you go, oh, where's your trust? My trust is in the Lord, but I also know the kind of world in which I live, and I want to be able to protect myself and my family. I'm not saying go shoot people. No, no, come on, don't. Those folks that are going to take that. Oh, he's just doing this. But nonetheless, what we got to understand, and you're right, the fish stinks from the head down. That's the world in which we live. That is the world in which we live, folks. So you've got to take care of yourself. We've got a security system here at our house. When I go out at night with the dogs, I'm always armed because we have coyotes and we have a bear on the property from time to time. Not that I'm going to go shooting a bear, but you never know. But we're talking about, in France, armed school children. These are high schoolers coming onto the bus and assaulting every single person on that bus with limbs and sticks. And look, we have the right to defend ourselves. You have the right to defend yourself. I have the right to defend myself. In California, the state's being sued for demanding that companies put people with alternative lifestyles on boards. In other words, California said you have to have these people on your board or you can't function in our state. Wow. I do want to read this one. And these are just some of the, this is from Zero Hedge. Here's what we know about the COVID Omicron strain. Okay. Here we go. It's regarded as the most heavily mutated variant of the coronavirus. It says it has 32 mutations in the spike protein, 50 overall. The Omicron variant was identified 5 days ago. Matter of fact, it went in 40 hours. It went from, okay, we discovered this thing to shut down the world. Okay. Sequencing data suggests 8.1.1.529 has a different evolutionary pathway. But one of the things that we know is this: viruses mutate. They mutate, they shift, they change, all sorts of different things that happen. So now, it has been cautioned a significant number of those mutations may not necessarily be as negative as it is, depending on how these mutations function. And that's what scientists have yet to establish. And that's what we're going to understand. They've known about this for 5 days. What they do not know, they don't know everything about it, but there's a lot of fear being pushed out there. So we want to be careful. We want to be careful that we're watching how those things play out. One article I want to encourage you to read on Zero Hedge. Actually, two. I'm sorry. On Zero Hedge is an article called "What is the Relationship Between the Political Left and Globalism?" It is worth your time. Okay. And another one on Zero Hedge: Are we already living in a brave new world? Huxley's warning to the world. And I'm going to read part of this. There's a quote. There's a quote from Aldous Huxley. And in 1962, he said this at Berkeley. It seems to me that the nature of the ultimate revolution with which we are now faced is precisely this: that we are in the process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, who have always existed and will always exist, to get people to love their servitude. In other words, he said the machine's already in place, the gears are already turning to put people into a place where they have to serve everybody else or somebody else. So very, very interesting article in that regards. Hey, we're going to be in chapter 9. Going to finish it up tomorrow, but we're going to be in verse 15 through 23. And there's some interesting things here that we need to understand and recognize. Matter of fact, I'm sorry, verse 19. Verse 19 through 23. Paul says this: "For though I am free from all, I have made myself a servant to all, that I might win more of them. To the Jews I become a Jew in order to win Jews. To those under the law I become as one under the law, though not being myself under the law, that I might win those under the law. To those outside the law I become as one outside the law." Now look, Paul's not saying I compromise, I become like them, I act like them, I do like them. No. He's basically saying that he will adjust his personal practices. He will adjust his personal preferences to work with people. He'll do what he needs to do. I'm going to tell a story here in just a little bit that will kind of help you understand some of that. Paul is not trying to please others. What he's trying to do is win. He's trying to win their understanding of what Jesus is. He's not trying to win their approval. He's trying to explain to them who Jesus is by living his life out in the practical world, sitting there with them, taking time with them. He goes on to say this: to those outside the law, become as one outside the law, not being outside the law of God, but not under the law of Christ, that I might win those outside the law. To the weak I become weak, that I might win the weak. I become all things to all people, that by all means I might save some. I do it all for the sake of the gospel, that I may share with them in its blessing. Now, we got to make sure that we keep things balanced in our lives. To Jennifer, So I went down there. If you I understand we just had some issues going on. Sorry about that. If you didn't see it, let me go back and rephrase that. I'm getting some things we've got some strong winds here today, 25, 30 miles an hour, and that's causing some issues. And Moose wanted to come and make sure things were all right and say hi, didn't you, girlie? All right. Anyway, when I first became a youth pastor and got married to my wife Jennifer, I got a phone call late one night on a New Year's night. I got a phone call from a bartender saying, "Hey, one of your old buddies is down here, and he is so drunk he can't get home. We can't raise his family. Would you come get him? And he says you can just drive his truck home and drive his truck back to your house and whatever." So it's like 1:30 in the morning, New Year's Day. I just got wrestled out of a good night's sleep so far, and I go downtown and I walk in the front door to get my friend. My friend's name was Eric. Okay, and so. And first of all, my wife was like, "You can't go down there. You can't go down. The guy needs help." So I walked in the bar. And what was interesting was my father had been in that bar many times when I was a kid at a pool table. He'd take me with him sometimes. The American Legion. We had Jack's Blue Room and Pauline's. And this was Jack's Blue Room. And so here I am, I'm a pastor, but I'm going in to help a friend. And I went because I knew I was supposed to. So I walk in the door, and everybody, like, all their heads, like, snapped. Like, who in the world? Why is this guy here, And I saw some of the same people that I know were Hey folks, we're back from buffering. Sorry about that. Not for sure what's happening. I really can't get closer to the Wi-Fi because of where it's at. But hopefully you can see me. Anyway, bartender calls me down, and I walk up to Eric, and I grab Eric around his shoulder, I start helping him out. Nobody's helping me, okay? I came there to get this guy to help him, get out of the bar and go home. So I help him out of the bar. I put him in his truck, and I drive him home, and I help him get out, and I put him back around. And then I drive back home. But then that's when I realized that the truck I'm driving has a white power sign on the back of it, a sticker in the back window. So now I've got a truck from a drunk friend with a white power sticker in the back, sitting in my yard. And so I had a police show up. They want to know what was going on. I said, "Hey, I helped Eric get home last night. He's going to come get his truck later." And they came and got it later. However, nonetheless, I had to become all things that I had to become a friend to a friend that night to walk in that bar to drive that guy home. And so, and that guy eventually had an overdose. I was the last person he called. This was probably 4 or 5 years later. Phone rings in the afternoon, and he says, "Dana, this is Eric. I have just taken more drugs than I ever should have. It's going to kill me." He said, "Man, will you pray with me? Will you pray with me?" And I prayed with him, and I asked him for, I lived through the sinner's prayer. And as he was kind of drifting out, he said, "I still remember you coming to the bar and picking me up that night. Thank you, because you probably saved my life. I would have killed myself or somebody else driving home." I was the last person he called. And when I went to his funeral, I'll tell you, I was overwhelmed with the emotion when I saw him. He'd gotten saved, was involved in a Christian ministry for a while, fell away. But I understand what it means. I become all things to all men, by all means, so I might save some. I don't hang out in bars. I don't. But God allowed me to walk into that bar to help. And those people there, that bartender, after Eric killed himself literally, that bartender found me in my community and said, "Hey," and he actually went at the community. He was at the funeral. He said, "Man, I remember you came and got him." He said, "Every time Eric would come back in here and talk, he'd talk about how good of a friend you were. If you're the only guy," he said, and Eric made the same. He said, "I got a lot of friends, but Dana was the only one that would come down here." And the bartender said, I called his family. I called probably 20 people. You're the only one that came." You know what? we need to do everything we can. Here's what Paul said: I do it all for the sake of the gospel, that I may share with them in its blessings. I know that what happened in Eric's life was not good, not right, but I also know that Eric never forgot the fact that he was drunk, but he was told by that bartender later on that I'm the one that came and got. He didn't remember me. He didn't know where his car was. He had to call the bar to find out, or the bartender. So what's the point? The point is, we're supposed to go on the highways and the byways, and we're supposed to help people. We're supposed to make a difference in people's lives. And that's what Paul was doing. That's what Paul was doing. Maple hears me poking this is me, girl. This is me. They're coming to check out what this noise is, and it's me. But nonetheless, Paul says, what then is my reward in verse 18? That in my preaching I may present the gospel free of charge, so as not to make full use of my right in the gospel. In other words, he said, I am going to do everything I can to make a difference in people's lives. I will go wherever. I will do whatever God asks me to do to make a difference. And that's why Paul says, to the weak I become weak, that I might win the weak. So I become all things to all men, so that by all means I might save some. And that's the important thing. Folks, I know that some of you work with people who literally hate you because you're Christians. Continue to love them. Continue to be Christ-like. Because I can assure you, I promise you, I give you my word. I'm telling you, there's going to be a time and a moment in that person's life when they need to know God's grace. And they're going to come to you because you're the ones that they've been blasting and blaspheming and laughing at and scoffing and mocking. But they're the ones that are going to understand, man, whatever they have, I need. And you'll be the one that they come to. And I've seen that happen many times, both when working at Hardee's, other believers who are around you who see you go through. They need to recognize and know that you're faithful to the Lord. That's when it comes out. Look, continue to be Christ to those that they work with, no matter what they say, no matter what they do. I heard a story one time. There was a pastor's daughter in a school system in Indiana. And this daughter always wore skirts and dresses to school. And this was like in the late 70s, early 80s. And these people the guys would come up behind her and pull her dress up and put it over her head, her skirt or her long dress. And they'd laugh and mock and try to knock them down, okay? Well, one of the girlfriends of the guys that did this, her parents were in a real serious accident. And she had watched this girl who they would pull the dress over her head and mock and laugh at her. This girl, the girlfriend of one of these guys that did that, would watch this girl just put her dress back down and red face, she'd say, I'm praying for you guys. I'm praying for you guys. And she would speak stuff like that. She would just pray, and she would out loud begin to pray, I pray for these guys. And she would use strong language, not curse words, but she would say, I pray for these perverts who are trying to do these things to me. And that of course pushed it even further. But one day, the girlfriend of one of these guys who did that, mom and dad's in a serious accident. One of them passed away, and that girl did not know what to do. Her boyfriend was just get over, it's just parents and this sort of thing. That young lady understood that what she needed was what that girl had, and so she went to that pastor's house. She knocked on the door and asked if the daughter was there, and the daughter was. And that daughter led her to Jesus. That girl walked away from the other guy. And that girl, that pastor's daughter, began to disciple that young lady. Pretty soon, that young lady had another friend. And when the guys would talk about doing things, that girl would come to that pastor's daughter's defense all the time. And there was a small revival that started among a group of women, a group of girls in that school, all because one girl would not stand down, all because one girl would keep her faith. And even though they were mocking her and laughing at her, and eventually even some of those guys got saved. And I heard this from the pastor himself who told the story. So I know that sometimes we go through persecution, opposition, people saying things, doing things that we just do not like, cannot stand. But I'm telling you what, Shelley, thank you for sharing that. A fourth grade pastor's daughter led you to Christ. You see, God puts us in the places we're in for a reason and purpose. He knows what we can handle, knows what we can take. But he also wants us to share the gospel. And like what Paul says, last thing in verse 23, I do it all for the sake of the gospel. I went into that bar that night at 1:30 to take the guy home, all for the sake of the gospel. I can still remember Eric's phone call. He knew he was going to die. He knew he knew he put too much stuff in his body. He was going to OD, and he wanted to make sure he's right with the Lord. I believe that one day I'm going to see Eric there. In the confines of his drug-induced mind, he was able to call me, ask me to pray for him. I know one day I'll see him. So whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Do it all for the sake of the gospel. Let God use the past that you had to encourage people. I'm convinced that God brings us out of things so that one day we can help people who have not been brought out yet. And we can encourage them and help them and give them wisdom and insight and understanding and patience and kindness. Because sometimes, I've never been a drug addict. I've never been an alcoholic. I've got my own issues and sets of problems, believe me. But I've never dealt with some of those things. But the people who came out of that are able to really help those because they understand the cravings and the addictions and the situations that go on. They understand those things. So we do it because we love people. We do it because we love Jesus. And we do it for the sake of the gospel. Let that be our prayer focus there, okay? Lord Jesus, I pray that you use everything in us from the past, the present, the future. Use it for your glory. Help us, God, to make a difference in those around us. Help us, Lord, to be Christ, everybody around us. And Lord, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that even though getting up early that morning and going to that bar and seeing those people's heads about fall off when I walked in, God, I'm thankful for the testimony that it led for that bartender to know about because Eric told him things about me and about taking him home. Eric also called me, Lord, and needed to make sure his life was right. Lord, he knew where it was going. And Lord, it all started because I went and picked him up in the bar one night. So I'm praying that whatever you call us to do, wherever you ask us to go, Lord, you just help us to have the wisdom to do it for your glory. Lord, for those that deal with workers and co-workers who are just mean and just wicked towards some of these folks, Lord, I'm asking you to give us wisdom, encouragement, and patience, and help us do everything things you've called us to do. And I pray it in Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. I did notice that I'm kind of watching on purpose. I did see that it buffered again. So I don't know if the prayer even came out, but just know this. I'm praying that we do everything we do for the sake of the gospel. I'm praying that we do everything we do to make a difference in the world around us. That we challenge those things going on around us. Someone wants to say hi. Mabel's wearing her sweater today, aren't you, girl? You wearing your sweater today? You gonna say hi? You gonna say hi, people? Huh? You gonna say hi to people? She's a baby. So glad that God brought those dogs into my life. I'm so glad that God's brought you folks along beside me. Appreciate your support, your love, your encouragement. Um, just grateful to do what I'm doing. Once again, I never asked for this. I never sought it out. This kind of caught me by absolute surprise. But I'm thankful. I am so thankful that the Lord's brought us together as a family, as an online group, that we can make a difference in the world. And let's continue to do that. Let's continue to do that. Make a difference. Let everything you do be for the sake of the gospel. Do it all for the sake of the gospel, folks. So, hey, back on tomorrow. We're going to finish up chapter 9, I believe. Yep, we're going to finish up chapter 9 and start chapter 10 on Monday. We'll be back with a practical prayer in the Spirit on Tuesday and also from the Perch on Thursday. So, thanks for being a part of this. And I appreciate seeing people from New England, Oklahoma, Texas, Canada, all over the place. I'm so grateful to be able to invite you into my home and into the secret place on Sunday mornings. But thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for your encouragement and your support and your prayers. It's been a great week. It's been a great week. It's really been a great week. I've had one of the best weeks, one of the best Thanksgiving times that my family's ever had. I had all three of my kids together, nieces, nephews, my son and his wife. I say it this way: I've got one that's I've got one that's married. I've got one that's probably going to get married soon, and one that's probably never going to get married, but nonetheless, I'm so grateful for my kids and my family and my church family and my online family. So, hey, God bless, folks. God bless, folks, and have a great rest of the day.